My name is Dorothy Carlos, and right now I'm a retired physician assistant. I went to Long Island University, and I graduated in 1983. I was a head PA for surgery. I did that for 23 years, and I did cardiology. Prior to that, I used to sing with the Shirelles. I was in entertainment business. And then after getting married and having children, I said, Dad, you're getting older. You better get a career. So I struggled and put myself through college and went to study medicine. And my husband left me because I guess, a lot of men get a little threatened if you're going to make money. So it was kind of hard, but I made it. And for 23 years, I was a PA. Then I lost my eyesight because of glaucoma and diabetes to my right eye. So I had to give up that. And I was fortunate enough that I was old enough to retire from the city. And I retired in, I think, 2000, 2001. But then I said to myself, Dad, you still have a lot of life in you. I'm not going to sit home. So what I did was I went out and got a job as a unit secretary because I still liked the medical field. And I worked at Pascagoula Valley Hospital. Of course, it took me some years because it took almost 2 or 3 years because they didn't want to hire somebody, quote, older. So finally, Pascagoula Valley, they more or less catered to older people because some of the people in there couldn't even hardly walk, but they were still working. So I was lucky enough to get a position there. And November 2007, the hospital closed. So once again, here I am, even older now, put out of work. So what do? I started looking for a job, and it seemed like, with my education, a BS degree, non-invasive vascular diagnosing, all kind of specialties, I can't find a job. And what I would do when I go on interviews is say, I just want to work. I don't want to sit home. I still have a lot of life in me. Please don't put me out to pasture. I went through a whole lot. I used to have to steal wood to heat my house. It was rough. And my husband, it just makes me cry what I went through. He came and threw the little food we had on the floor in the kitchen because he didn't want me to finish school, but I was determined. And I eventually worked myself up to making over $200,000 a year. And it hurts now when I think about how people treat people because they've struggled. And then they get to be older, and they treat them and don't want them to work. And all I want to do is just survive. This house here was almost paid for. And because of what society made it so hard for me to get a job, I had to revert to a reverse mortgage. And I only owed $148,000 on my house. They didn't tell me that how this interest escalates. I have children, so by the time something happens to me, my children are not going to be able to afford the $400 and something thousand. So what did I have to do? I said, Dorothy, you've got to do something. So what I did was I had to take out another mortgage to pay this. But I wound up paying $196,000. So now I'm in more debt. So now I'm in more debt, but I can't get a job to even pay for it. And finally, I was on unemployment, and I kept looking. So I got a part-time job at the Bergen Pack Theater, house manager. I loved that. I was still in entertainment, but it was a job. That was only sporadically when they had shows. And I kept looking and kept looking, couldn't find anything. So I went to Hackensack Hospital. Of course, if you don't know the president there, you don't get a job. I mean, not literally, but you really have to have some contacts. And I was interviewed quite a few times, but for some reason or other, and I felt it was because of my age, they don't come right out and say it. Nobody ever comes right out and say, look, we want somebody a little bit younger than you. But I knew it within me, I knew what it was. So I just kept on, I kept on. And it seemed like my unemployment was just running out. And I got a call from Inglewood Hospital. And they told me to come in, and they took me for a unit secretary because someone from Pascagoula Valley had recommended me. Then all of a sudden I got that job, and all of a sudden the school I went to says, would you come here and teach? So I said, fantastic. When? They said part-time. I said, okay. So I'm saying, I'm so glad to get a job. I'm trying to juggle both of them. I worked 17 straight days. And I'm like dead tired because I work at Inglewood Hospital. You have to go through orientation. Then I'm working at Hohokus, and I'm teaching anatomy physiology. And at my age now, 68 years old, going to work 17 straight days and working, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, not getting home until 9:30. It's kind of tiring, but I want to show that people who are over 50 or 60 even nowadays, they don't have to be just put out there and say, hey, collect your, and then the society says, oh, well, we have to pay them their Social Security. I'm still contributing to Social Security, whether they know it or not. And I'm still a viable thing to this community. I don't have a time limit on how long I'm going to work. They have this thing, 68 is gray hair, little old lady from Pasadena, walking slow with the little pocketbook wrapped around her arm. No, darling. Don't take those older people for granted. They are not as old as they look, and they're not as timid as they look. Give me my independence, but also give me my work, and let me make my own way. Let me survive.